right, so with that, welcome everyone. I have a couple of great guests with me here today. James and Jeanne Ballou are certified freelance coaches, not retired, and founders of J&J Online Innovations and Living in Costa Rica. And that is about the most understated introduction based on what I know about you guys and what you do. So why don't we start with you guys just give us a little bit of background on maybe like your corporate experience before you shifted gears into what you're doing now, and then tell us a little bit about what made you decide to shift gears, and then we can go from there.
Sure. I'll start.
You go.
Yeah. So my background is my background was sales and marketing. You know, I started when I was 10. So
Paper route?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in sales and marketing my whole career, mostly high tech, a little bit of financial services, you know, for the majority of my career. Then short story is, you know, I did that for 25 years plus. I like to say 25 years plus. So we'll stop at 25. And, you know, just got towards the end of the last 10 years or so was a real inflection point for me in terms of what I wanted to do in terms of, you know, work and how I wanted to work and spend the last third of my my working career. And I'll stop there because I don't want to get too far ahead.
Okay.
But I'm going to stop at that point and let Jeanne talk a little bit about up to the point where we started.
Okay. To be continued on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I have a background in sales education and development, working with salespeople, sales managers, and sales executives in leadership development and education for, I don't know, 20 years. And then from there, I continued on the same path, working with people in the healthcare industry. So doing the same kind of work. And so by the time that was done, we're looking at, 25 years or so. And then I had a moment in my life where my mother got sick. She had lung cancer and came and lived near us. And I ended up being her caregiver with James. And that kind of changed my entire idea about what I wanted to do. So I moved into healthcare with older adults, and I became a certified senior advisor. And I did everything from activities director to sales and marketing, move-in coordinators. I did all of that. And that's really what led us up to our time when we decided to, I don't know, leave.
Shift gears.
Yeah, shift gears. And do you want me to talk about that part, or you want to take that?
Sure.
Well, I mean, the way we say it that we've come to for people is that, for all of us in our age group, there were a lot of what we call black swan events in our life, from the .com to September 11th to the recession in 2008 and then the pandemic. And, the pandemic came and James and I stayed upright and managed our way through that, as many of us did. And, a lot of horrible things happened to
that was a big
people.
inflection point for us and for a lot of folks. So,
I mean, honestly, everybody, James has been on his way to doing what we've been doing for 20 years. He's a lifelong International Living magazine reader, and I'm much more steadfast and keep, job. And, but after the pandemic, I got pretty clear that if we were going to make a move after the pandemic and what happened, that this was the time to do it. Yep. So we started thinking about what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And that sort of led us into that exploration and started us on this path.
How we were not going to retire.
We weren't ready to retire.
I love the emphasis on not retired.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was the genesis? I kind of, I'm 56 years old. So I think most people, when we start to get to this stage in life, priorities change. We start kind of rethinking where things fit in our life, what's important. So when you told me about you guys moving, that didn't surprise me as much as how you did it, and how you just kind of, well, I'll let you explain it, but to me, it stuck out as a very different change. It wasn't just okay, we're just going to move to Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about what led to that mindset to do it the way you did it.
Woo. Well, let's see. Well, go ahead and start. I'll add color.
Okay. Well, what I would say is really what I said about the international living. Like, James has been wanting to do something like this for pretty much as long as I've known him.
Yes.
And, always looking at islands and tropics. And I love all that. I love the tropics. I've lived in Hawaii when I was young. And I was always the one that was pretty much like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And, for many people in our age group, and honestly, James just turned 63, I'm 61. We were, a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us were raised like, you get a job, you keep a job, or if you do change jobs, you go from job to job, and you make sure you have your insurance, and you make sure that you do well, and all your reviews are good, and you climb the ladder, and you do it all right, whatever that means. And it's sort of a contract that we make when we're young.
The promise.
The promise of
as
how
we call it.
yeah, it's about how everything's going to turn out. We write about this. And, you get to a point where you kind of go, and I was the big believer that if you just keep a job, you're safe. Safety is in the job you hold. And, you get old enough to kind of either happens to you, or you look at people around you going, I don't know that that's true. And so James was very kind and patient with me. I mean, we've been together a long time, and he let me be who I was. And
we got to the point where it was like a 2-year plan, right? When we get to a certain point, Jeannie was going to wrap up.
Safe. It was safe,
finish her project at work with her job.
It was a 2-year project.
I had transitioned to fractional sales executive work. So I had made the move to independent, entrepreneurial, self-employed kind of work.
Right.
And
But
then
my safety
and
was
her
still my
safety was
job.
still her job. And said, as soon as we're
Benefits.
done with that, yes, done with
Gotta have
that, we can look at this transition. And that 2-year plan turned into a 6-month plan.
Well, I got pretty quick that the job that I went
Right.
to, just like everybody does, where you're looking for the different title, or you're looking for new opportunity, or it's really exciting, or they're going to pay you more, or all the lists we all have. I got to that and got pretty clear that the promise that was made about that job and what it was going to be was not what it was at all. Like, I got there pretty quickly and went, uh-oh. I mean, I did all my due diligence, guys, just like we all do. And we got pretty quickly that this is not going to go well. And I just like to say that company did not make it. I knew it. And
well, it wasn't just the company not making it though, but at that point, when she came to that and I came to her and said, hon, you'd be great at freelance work online.
And I'm like, oh,
right.
no,
and,
I don't. It's not safe. You're
her
on your own.
Yeah. I mean, her big thing was from the safety point of view was I need to be able to make an income, right? Because we're not retiring, right? Most of us still need to make an income, whether we need to, want to, and how much varies for everybody. But for mental health and for financial reasons.
Huge. And having worked with older adults, I do know from my education and my actual one-on-one personal experience that people who stop working as they get older as part of that dream is not a good thing. So I'm just saying it to everybody out there. I know you want to do that, but it's not a healthy alternative to work. Maybe a different kind of work, one of choice. But to just sit back and drink all day and hang out in a hammock and go to the beach and watch the sunset all the time is not healthy.
Wasn't going to work. So we came quickly to okay, you know what? Life is short. We're not tied to Charlotte. We loved Charlotte, by the way.
Loved it. Beautiful city.
But our kids weren't tied to it. Our kids were off and running in New York and, in Europe and the whole 9 yards. So they were running with their life. And we just we need to be able to, live the rest of our life on our terms. And, there's no time like the present. So we made that decision. And within 6 months, we made a 6-month plan. And we said, look, we're going to sell everything.
Well, wait, there's more. Wait, there's just more. Which is, so you told me about the freelancing. So that was a big part of it. Yeah.
I told you, you gotta get it. You can do this.
So I basically took a program that James had taken previously about how to learn how to freelance. And so I took that program and I learned how to freelance. And I said, okay, I'm going to put my attention on this. I'm going to focus on, I'm going to see what I can do. And through the program over the next 3 months or more, I was making, I'm not going to say the amount, but I was making a decent living where I was like, wow, if I could make this amount. And the reason I'm not saying is people can ask me, find out later, but it's like not the place to do all that. I pretty much said, if I can do this living in Costa Rica, then there's no reason not to go to Costa Rica. So what
Or
ended up,
anywhere.
or anywhere for that matter. That's what took the 2 years to 6 months. And then the next step was, okay, but to stay safe,
Oh, right.
we need to keep the house. Okay, so because that was my plan B, like, what if it doesn't work out? Now you got to know, James just goes with James will just ride with the tide. He'll go, well, if this doesn't work, we'll do something else. He's always
figure it
been
out.
that way. It's
Right.
very virtuous. And I'm like, I'm the cat hanging onto the curtains going, but if we keep the house, if things don't go well, we
We
can
can
back
come
to
back.
the house. So that was a whole nother month of just.
Oh,
your
I lived with
spreadsheets.
that probably for 6 weeks, and then I put together all the spreadsheets and all of the financial models and practical models, and I just went, so hun, this isn't gonna work. Keeping the house is not an option, and here's why, right? And there was many reasons why.
That's a
Financially,
huge.
it wouldn't be a positive cash flow, right? Even if we rented it out, best case would be break even, blah, blah, blah. And, the minute somebody stiffs us for rent or something goes wrong with the house, or, it's more of a hassle, right?
And to be
Mhm.
really honest, we know a lot of people down here, they're everywhere, that run two households. So they have a household that they live in the States or Canada, and then they come down here for 4 or 5 months out of the year, and they're kind of making their way to full time, or not. But we're really honest with people, behind the curtain, that was not a financial option for me and James. Like, that wasn't the way it was going to go. We weren't going to hold on to a house with those kind of expenses in Charlotte and have a house down here. That was just not a possibility for us.
No.
So we, like many people, we sold everything.
That's where duffels and dogs came from. If we couldn't put it in a duffel bag and, so if we couldn't get it on the plane, we didn't bring it. So we literally sold everything, the
Everything.
house, the cars, the stuff.
All the stuff, you guys, it was just wonderful. And
And-
it was fabulous.
As daunting as that may sound, it was hugely liberating.
Hugely, very liberating. Just,
Ooh.
you don't realize how much not only what I learned is not only do you hang on to stuff. I don't know why we had stuff I didn't care about, but you connect yourself to that stuff. So if you have somebody to your house or whatever, it becomes your identity. And all of a sudden you are the things that you have. And if you don't have those things, then who are you? And it's like, I
Yeah.
never thought about it, but I have pictures of James on the sidewalk in his robe holding our ironing board as we're like putting it out there for people. We got rid of everything. I mean, the bed walked out the door with somebody, and I thought, okay.
Yes, we have pictures of our bedroom with no bed and a pile of duffel bags in it, and
Yeah.
that's-
So
I
it was,
wonder,
yeah,
I wonder how much of that is uniquely American, because almost every time I drive by a storage company like the storage unit company, I think to myself, where else in the world do people have so much stuff that they're literally renting space for extra stuff that they never see or use?
Yeah.
And that, I mean, the only time I've ever done that in my life was when I first moved and we were in an apartment looking for a house, right? It was
Yeah.
a practical thing, but I can't imagine having that much stuff, but I can imagine just from getting rid of a relatively small amount of stuff in the loft of my house, the mental space that feels like it cleaned
Yeah.
out in my head.
yeah.
I can only imagine that selling everything has got to be a little bit of like a mind.
It was lovely.
Yeah, I mean,
Trick
at
almost.
first it's a big daunting thing, and then you quickly, I mean, we quickly just got so into it. And then at the end of the process, like I said, the freedom that allows you,
Yeah.
was incredible. And
Well,
yeah,
and well, here too is that we were the people that lived in a house for 40 years. So we originally from California, Silicon Valley. So we were always downsizing. So even the stuff we had compared to our friends and what we see wasn't even on the radar. But here's the other thing that was really interesting that I was shocked by, and I remember coming home to the amount of stuff we have that you can't even get rid of. People don't want your stuff. I mean, I had, for all of you out there in business, I had the beautiful suits and I did it all right, and the shoes and the Armani and the same. You can't give this stuff away. I mean, you can do, where did I take
Goodwill.
it? A Goodwill and I took a lot for the women, for the work clothes for women. I did all that. But I mean, I couldn't even consign my stuff. We had things that nobody wanted. And I do remember I came home and like, it was shocking to me. Like, not only do I have stuff, but I can't even give away my stuff to a lot of places. So we're all walking around with things that we think we're just going to easily give up when we're ready. Like, no problem. Like, there's no landfill issue. And you're like, oh my word, like you can't even give it away. So we're all collecting things that, I mean,
guess
other
I
than
don't mean anything.
amazing.
Yeah, I guess that's why I've always heard realtors say, like, you want to minimize the amount of your personal stuff. Like if you're selling a house and they're going to show your house, a lot of times they'll advise you, like, take down the pictures of like your kids and all these little personal things, because people have a hard time visualizing their stuff.
Right.
And it's harder if there's more of your stuff that's like really, really personal stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm curious though. So I get that you got to this point, you decided, hey, we can do this. We could do the freelancing thing. We want to go and move down to Costa Rica. But what was it that took you from we're going to move to Costa Rica to we're getting rid of everything? I mean, this is like scorched earth. Some people are probably thinking, oh, they're probably like freaking out just at the idea of getting rid of everything they've accumulated their entire life, other than what fits in a duffel bag and their pets.
Well, I think that we have to be honest too about who we are, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, we are not attached people.
Or places. I mean, right. So I mean, it was a rather short transition, maybe a couple of months, right? Because there was first, let's keep the house, let's do that, but it quickly became, no, that's just not feasible, right? So we had to look at another way to do it, and that was really the only way to do it, was to wipe the
Just
slate
complete
clean
fresh start.
and a new fresh start. And that's scary for a lot of folks.
Oh my, we understand completely. It was scary.
It was scary. And, like I said, we're not rich. And, this wasn't like, oh, well, we're just moved to Costa Rica. A lot of people go like, it's like, no, it's not like that. Right. So
but we also like who we are. No, I mean, we met in California, Silicon Valley. We went from there.
We're a little nomadic.
We're a little nomadic. So we have to be honest with people. So if you're watching this or listening, or John, if you're not a nomadic person, we can completely understand that would be a certain, but we are a little nomadic. So, and our children are both in Europe. So there seems to be something about us. Like when we told our family what we were doing,
they said, of course you are.
Of course you are. Like,
did either one of you come from a military family? Because I
No.
never served in the military, but my dad was in the Army 30 years. So I moved 12 times before I graduated high school. But that's specific to, being in a military family. But you guys didn't have that growing up?
No, we hear that a lot because we have friends who grew up that way. But we both come from divorced parents. We come from parents that lived on opposite sides of the country, more or less.
Yeah, so there was a lot of
And we kind of raised ourselves. We're both the youngest of everyone, and our childhoods were a little bit like on our own anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that whole, we didn't. So I think that plays a little bit into it, but I want to make sure we're really clear. I am the safety monitor. I am about safety. I'm about physical, financial safety. I hang on to but what my whole thing is, I'm going to end up under a bridge with a shopping cart. Like, that's been my thing for 30 years. And it's the oddest thing because I still keep doing these things. So where he'll just kind of figure it out and go, okay, well, let's shift and we'll do it a different way. I'm like,
I relate to your relationship, but for me, it's switched. I'm the safety one in my relationship.
yeah,
My girlfriend is the seat of the pants. Hey, let's go to the mountains. And I'm like, where in the mountains? When? Like, when do you want to leave? All right,
you have to plan.
are we, where are we going to eat? Are we going to take a cool, my mind immediately goes to like checklists and preparation. And her
Yes,
daughter,
Yes, yes.
yes.
her daughter
yes.
actually drew a picture of Dora the Explorer, but with my face on it. She's like, I carry like a little fanny pack around all the time. And every time someone needs something, I'm like, oh, I got that. I'm like the be prepared kind of guy.
You need a Band-Aid?
So-
I got one.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we won't go down that rabbit trail, but there's some stories
John,
that are pretty funny.
You and I are the people that could have been on the old show, Let's Make a Deal, which you may have been a little bit too young for, with Monty Hall.
No, I
where
remember
he's
that.
like, has anybody got a hard
Give you
boiled
$500. Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
You got a paper clip?
I got it.
So this will tell you in a nutshell. We were playing some game at a family game night, and one of the questions was, the house is burning down. All the people are out safely. What do you run back in to get? Everybody gave their answers, and we ended later. And then somebody needed something, and I had it. And Clint, my girlfriend's brother-in-law, goes, I got to change my answer. If the house is burning down, I'm grabbing John because he's got everything. It just seems like every time, but it's like little stuff. It's not like I walk around with like a gun and crazy stuff. It's like a Band-Aid, a safety pin, little stuff.
You're the guy like me that I have a plan. I mean, if anything happened to our house right now, passports and the dogs. Like,
Yeah.
you probably already have a plan. Like, if something does happen, what do I grab? And do I know where it is so I can get it quickly?
Yes.
And
I
he's one of
literally have a go bag. But
Oh,
now part of that,
bug out bag.
a bug out bag.
well, this one actually, it's an ER go bag. My mom's 84. She lives with me, and she's probably every other month. We end up a trip to the emergency room for different things. And I've learned the hard way. That's usually like a minimum 4-hour ordeal.
Yeah.
So I literally have a bag. It's, I can throw my
It's
iPad
great.
in there so I can read while I'm wet, and on and on, and all the
Right.
snacks, water bottle, the whole deal.
That's
So
wonderful.
I
Yeah.
can relate, but it's interesting, the dynamic when you have people that are at opposite ends. I'm curious if you've experienced this, where initially I used to think, my God, like, you don't plan for anything. You just wing everything. And little by little, the longer we were together, I started to realize, dude, what are you planning for?
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
okay, a first aid kit, got it. Like, having a fire extinguisher in the house, bare bones, like safety stuff, got it. Makes sense. But do I really need to know if we're going to the mountains? Do I need to know in advance exactly where we're going and what time we're getting back? Do I need to?
Yeah.
No, I don't. There's a lot to be said for letting go of some of that attachment to, for me, I know for me, it's that I hate uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right. So if I have a plan, I've kind of mitigated a lot of that uncertainty or that risk, so to
Right.
speak.
Absolutely.
So-
Well said. And you can expand that to, to your life, right? Because we hang on to we hang on to stuff, we hang on to that certainty, or the illusion of certainty anyway.
Like a paradigm.
It's the whole paradigm. And to do, we get people asking us all that, which is why we started Duffels and Dogs, is how do you do this? How are you doing this? So we started Duffels and Dogs to start chronicling what we're doing and try to impart some wisdom in that. And then that led into J&J, which we can get to. But, people are just so like,
All of us
it's all fear-based.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's back up a little bit though. And so we got to the point, you guys are making a change. You're going to go, you're
Yep.
going to get rid of anything, go down to Costa Rica. What was it that led you to choose Costa Rica? Because obviously there's lots of options.
Yeah. So So here was the thing. I mean, Costa Rica sort of checked all the boxes. We're both very warm weather people, tropical kind of, you know, weather, beach near the ocean. So, you know, Costa Rica has all of that, but it also is close to the United States. So we wanted something where we could get back if we needed to easily, not to move back, but to get to friends and family. We have friends and family there, right? So we wanted to easily get back to the US if we could. So, you know, Costa Rica checked all of those boxes.
Well, it's ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean,
Not-
but then there was the next layer of
Okay,
stuff,
yeah,
right?
right.
The next layer of stuff why Costa Rica was all of that, plus it's just so diverse and beautiful here. So there, you know, there's got a lot of, it's not monochromatic all the way across the country.
There's over 20 microclimates here.
So you get everything here. There was that. And then the area in Costa Rica that we chose, which was the Northwest.
Well, before
Coast.
that, it's democratic. There's no
Well,
military.
right, no-
Those are
yeah.
important. Like, you don't want to go necessarily to Nicaragua. I mean, if
So
you've been to Latin America-
stable government,
Right.
lovely people, no military, no police state, no nothing, no, you know, no machine guns at
Right.
the airport. You know, just all of that stuff. So Costa Rica checked all of those boxes.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was the specific of the area that we chose because of healthcare, walkability on the beach, near an airport, you know, small
What about
community.
cost of living? That must have been
Oh.
a consideration.
That's,
Yeah, yes and no. And
Okay.
what I say that is the cost of living here can be as much or as little as you want. What I
It's
mean by
true.
that, it's true. You can move here and spend just as much as you do in the United States, depending on the lifestyle you want, right? But and some things here are more expensive than they are back home, like electricity, cars. There are a few things that they're more expensive here, but in total, in aggregate, it's significantly less. What allows you,
Okay.
you know, what allowed us to is you can, you know, we bought a property and remodeled it, rebuilt and all of that stuff. But at the same time, we've got no mortgage
can you imagine? I never
Right.
imagined not having a
for
mortgage.
selling our house. We got no mortgage.
There's a lot of countries. So I was a
And no-
financial advisor for about 6 years. And when I lived in Fort Lauderdale and was a financial advisor, there was a lot of Brazilians. And when we would get to questions about their financial future and where they were at in their debts and stuff, and I'd ask about a mortgage and they'd be like, mortgage, like, what's that? Like culturally, they just don't do mortgages in some countries. It's interesting to me how some things that we think are just standard, they're standard here. They're not standard everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing for me
yeah.
and James, because of how we are, I mean, we were never going to be in one place for 40 years and pay off a mortgage. That was never going to happen for us. That's not who we were. But I still never imagined not having one. Then the costing, I've written a number of blogs. I'm a content writer. Part of we'll talk about that, but part of my freelancing, what I do is content writing. And I've done a lot of blogs about the cost of living here and how do you move. And what James says is true. You can live here in as much as you want or as little as you want. It's going to depend on where you want to live. Certainly, like anywhere, if you live near the beach, it's going to be more expensive. But there are people here that live on $1,000 a month, easy peasy with not a problem. And he said you can also spend as much as you want. So it really is a matter of what's your budget. A lot of people come down here on Social Security. They don't have other income. They're looking for a less expensive place to live because living on Social Security alone in the US is like not, so anything like that really is possible. And what we find interesting in the conversation where we go to with it is people talk about where we live right now, the prices has gone up. It's gotten to be a little bit more popular, more people moving in. We get that, we're near the beach. And like, yes, the little incremental things can be more expensive here or there, but what James and I, and check me here, but look at is on the
Overall.
whole,
Yeah,
to
overall.
not have a
Yeah.
mortgage. I mean,
Property taxes, our property taxes last year were $700 for the year.
Wow.
So
And you have a single family home.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a mortgage, you practically have no, real estate taxes or nothing.
Our water was
Um,
$9
or,
last month.
Utilities can, electricity expensive, but, overall, we're saving, 50% of what we were spending in the US.
Wow.
I mean, easily.
Easily. And,
So-
And we,
yeah,
So when you decided to make the move, I know you'd mentioned, Jeannie, that you started freelancing, you realized, hey, this is doable. I can do this. When you decided to make the move down there, did you already have in mind that you were going to start this business that you have teaching other people? Or was it just, we're going to freelance ourselves to pay our bills? And that was it. Where was the business you have now? Was that in the back of your mind, or was that a thought already out in the front?
you take the first.
I'm gonna
shot there,
take the
honey.
first
Who's
shot.
gonna take the first shot?
So to
I'll
answer your
color.
question, it's an easy question. So no, I don't, when we first left, it was really about taking care of our own needs. At that time, right? We had Duffels and Dogs, but that really wasn't meant to be a moneymaker. That was just to chronicle our things. And then freelancing would be, to create our revenue stream.
Pay the bills.
And pay the bills. But we've got so much great response from the Duffels and Dogs people, from, other people coming to us, that we just said, you know what? This is, other people want to know how to do this. And that's why we,
So,
the J&J came in.
yeah, so we were also interested in looking for different ways to build our revenue, like have multiple revenue streams. So,
Right.
I mean, it's sort of the way you work it down here in a certain way. So when we first moved down, the property we bought had a 20-year-old Tico house on it, which is a local house, is concrete, and plenty of room on the property to build something else. So basically what we did was we lived in our little Tico house for a year while we built our little 900 square foot home that we're sitting in now. And the idea was one revenue stream was, this is before we got to the freelance part.
We didn't come down here with that idea though,
Yeah.
but that evolved very quickly.
Very quickly. So then we moved into the place we are now, and we have this rental unit, but it's not Airbnb. So that was one revenue stream. And then what happened was we tried some different things. We did the affiliate market. We've tried different things. My background, and then James has his fractional VP of sales, which is a freelancing job because he does it. He's not an employee anywhere, and he does it from here. So he started that, and then part of my background with all that I did with education was always coaching. I mean, I've always coached people, worked with people, and I've always been coached. So we've really never been without teachers and coaches, parts of programs. I mean, I am a certified senior advisor. I have my PMP. I'm very education based. I come from upbringing, maybe, I don't know, where always having a teacher or a coach to work with is a smart thing. And so as I'm going through this program, learning how to freelance, and it's going really well, I find out, or I know as I'm going through, because I hired one of their coaches, is that I could get certified by them to be a freelance coach, working with them as my backup and as my back office to coach other people to do exactly what I did, which has turned out to be an amazing thing to do.
That's the biggest sticking point for people who even have made the decision, I want to move to Costa Rica, or I want to move to Spain or Portugal, it doesn't matter where.
Or live in I want to just leave my job.
Or stay, or just leave their job, and they don't know. It's not like they've never heard of freelancing, but they have a different interpretation of what that is, but they don't know how to make that, cross that gap.
And connect the dots.
How to do it.
So,
Right.
So tell me about the J&J. What specifically, you mentioned coaching, teaching, so just unpack that for me a little bit. What is your business? What do you offer?
Yeah.
Let's unpack that.
So one of the things that led to it is specifically being in Costa Rica, and we have a friend and a colleague who has a relocation company that we worked with to get here. We were talking to her, and she said, and I was already certified by this point. But she said, so many people I talk to, and she's got a good business going. She's a lovely young woman, and she's
Very
really,
entrepreneurial.
really helpful. I mean, to try and move like this without having somebody that already knows the game is a really difficult thing to do. But we were talking to her, she goes, there's so many people I talk to that want to come here, but they still need to earn an income. And when you move to Costa Rica, if you're not a resident, you can't work here. So you can't come here and be a waitress. You can't be a bartender.
Is that a law?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't,
Oh,
you can't take work away from locals, right? So if you want to hire bartenders, you need to hire locals, which makes
Well,
perfect
you
sense.
can buy a business here and run it,
You can buy it and run it.
as long as you're hiring
okay.
Tico.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that's and people do it. We know plenty of immigrants / expats that do that. But for people that don't have that vision or can't do that, they're like, I want to do it, but I need to earn an income. And she said, if I can tell people about you, and they can find out that they can earn an income, then I can help them get here. So it just became one of our symbiotic relationships. So I talk to people all the time. So back to what's J&J. So J&J is J&J Online Innovations. And we call it that really because it's innovative. It's sort of like free, and check me here, but freelancing is something whose time has come. All of us at our ages have all tried different things. Some of us have reached out and tried entrepreneurial ventures. We've done more than this one. And there's good ideas. And sometimes you're ahead of the game, which doesn't mean that it's a good idea, but sometimes you're just ahead. Freelancing, especially after the pandemic, remote work, ubiquitous internet, employers that are welcoming freelancing work, that actually want to be able to hire somebody to do a job or a task for what, and it only takes 1 to 3 days for a freelancer versus 30 to 60 days for an employee. They're catching on to this. They're like, I'd rather keep coming working with Jeanne or Tom or Dick or Harry or James than have to go through the hiring thing. So
Well, yeah,
jump
I
in.
mean, so J&J, we have several courses that we teach people how to become excellent freelancers and free themselves up from their job. And very, very specifically, we take them through, the whole process. So by the time we're done, or by the time they're done working with us, they are working online, getting clients on a platform, getting clients.
Like, that's what our promise is.
So that's what we do, right? To help people transition.
So is it primarily, so years ago, I did some freelancing on a site called Elance, which now I think is part of
Upwork.
It's Upwork.
Upwork. Yeah, was it Odesk and Elance
Right.
merged or something like that? And
Right.
Is it something like that where you're teaching them how to work through those types of platforms? Okay.
Correct. So so my certification with the program I worked with, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about it, they're 4 stars on Trustpilot. It's a perfect, like, it's all up and up. I am certified to work with people to get them up on a platform, and the platform that I use to work with is Upwork. And the reason that I use Upwork was, number one, I was trained on it. I still work on it. And it's the biggest platform. It pays out $2.5 billion. It's been around over 20 years. It's financially secure. It's got over 200 to 300,000 jobs, whether you're looking at the US only or worldwide at any given day. And once you learn how to work on it and you understand about how to write a profile and how to bid on jobs and write a proposal, and you understand how the mechanism works, because it's different than being hired for a job. It's a completely different paradigm.
Right.
Once you understand how it works, you can work on any platform because they're all similar. But Upwork is the easiest, biggest, most depth.
And it has the broadest amount of kinds of jobs, right? So it's really good. And from the Elance days to now, there are dozens and dozens. There's probably like 150 different platforms out there, around that, and a lot of them are very specialized, like Fiverr or this or that. But the ones like Upwork and Freelancer.com and Fiverr and some of the other really larger ones, they are just coming online and providing platform for freelancers.
And clients.
Yeah, I mean, so by 2027,
Yes.
over 50% of the US working people in the US will be freelancing. There'll be more freelancers than there are people with W-2 jobs. And there is that flexion point in the middle where, not everybody that freelances, they may also have a job, right?
Right.
So it's not
It's gig. You can do
exclusive.
it part-time, full-time.
Right, whatever your needs are, but in 5 years from now, it is skyrocketing.
The way we say it is, first of all, the genie's out of the bottle. They're not going to get the genie back in, right? No matter what you're
Mhm.
reading, you guys go to Forbes, Atlantic, no matter what anybody's saying, freelancing
Street.
is out of the bottle. It's not going to go back. And the way I talk to my clients and one of the reasons people work with me is it's a skill set now. Like freelancing, like
Well,
this
it's
good idea,
fundamental.
it's now become fundamental, whether it's going to be a
Well-
plan B for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so here's something that this is one of the things that I wanted to ask James about last time we talked, but I wanted to wait for this interview because I think it's something that a lot of people are probably curious about. So back when I used to do freelancing on Elance, what used to drive me crazy is I would see people with programs similar to what you guys are offering. I'm not familiar with the nuts and bolts of how they worked and all that. But there were people who say, hey, I make 6 figures a year doing writing. Let's just say freelance writing, because that's what I was doing, right? And I felt like I was struggling to get gigs that paid what I thought was decent, right?
Mhm.
So clearly, I just wasn't doing something that these other people were doing. So without kind of giving away your secret sauce, what are some of the things that make the difference between these people that are just struggling to make a few bucks and the people that are knocking the ball out of the park, making a really good living?
Yeah.
Great question.
No, that's a really great question. And it's probably a 2-part answer, but the difference between the people who usually is really the coaching part. It's a nuance. I think that the people that will just go on by themselves and go on to, jump into a freelancing kind of, a platform, they look at it, they're still coming at it with the job mentality, right? Your resume and, the way that you write your proposals and all of that, they're still coming at it from I'm getting a job kind of like attitude, right? And
Mhm.
it's very much different than that. So the difference between that and somebody who's successful is to really understand the nuances of the freelancing world and how to interact with that versus just putting your resume online and trying to get a job, because that's still the mentality they have. And it seems like it may be a subtle shift, but it makes all of the difference in the world between how you interact online and the number and quality and amount of money that you can start to charge. And
So
one other thing,
Yeah.
one other thing, and this is a biggie for people.
He's on a roll.
When you start online, right? Yes, you probably need to take those menial jobs that you have to build your identity online so the algorithm sees you and you build it
Right.
up. Jeanne starts, when she started, she made $10 writing a 1,500 word blog, right?
Did.
Yeah,
But
I've been
now
there.
you charge 100 or more for the same blog, right? So, but you got to start out at the beginning. And a lot of people that are, been in corporate life, all they say, I'm not doing a job for $15. And they just start getting full of themselves. But you don't have to do that forever. But you got to be able to suck it up long enough to get over the hump. Does that make sense?
It's a whole different game. So working for an algorithm is very different than working for a human being. So my first 5, 6, even 7 jobs, literally I got paid $15 to write 1,500 word blogs. I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't about the money at the beginning. So that's first of all. The other thing is, and we talk about this with people, there's different ways to focus on freelancing. You know, some people will do it very casually. You know, you have a cup of coffee in the morning, you see what jobs are out there, and maybe you can make, you know, $500 to $1,000 a month. And some people we talk to, we call it M&M money, right? Massages and margaritas. Like they're just kind of cobbling something together. That's all they need. And then you can be a more focused, where you actually get yourself in a rhythm. Like you got to play a game. Like it's almost like, you know, going out and how you're going to find your next job or whatever. You know, you got to get in a rhythm, and you got to take it seriously and understand how many jobs there are and how to search and how to filter. And you can't look at 100,000 jobs. You got to get it down to 20. But how do you do that?
And we show people how to do that.
And we show people how to do that.
So
There's people who are intense and they make full-time money, but they work full-time at it. That is their job, or start agencies.
yeah,
So-
I think as you're describing all this, I'm remembering back when I was doing this, and I was doing it. I honestly just started doing it because I had gotten into speaking and training. And I thought, well, I'm spending all this time putting together presentations, writing, and I think it was Tim Ferriss who said something about that, like writing is the best way to just improve your thinking, right? And I thought, okay, well, I heard about this freelance thing. Maybe I'll just start doing some freelance writing as a way to force myself to write more and start to think more and better and all that stuff. And so thinking back on it, I remember struggling with the profile first, because I had that mindset you're talking about, right? Okay, I'm a corporate guy, so I know what a resume looks like, and I know how you write one of those. And it didn't take me very long to realize that doesn't work very well. So there's the profile that it took me a while to figure out. There's finding the gigs, to your point. How the heck do you do that? There's however many hundreds of thousands. How do you find them? And then you have to do a proposal, right? How do you write a proposal? If I'm a guy who had a job my whole career, and somebody walks in and gives me a task list, that's probably what I'm used to, right? I'm not used to saying, okay, how do I go out and get someone to hire me to do whatever these tasks are that they're going to hire me to do? So you guys have specific tactics, tools, things that you teach people,
whole program,
all of this stuff. So they're not showing up on day one going, how do I do this profile thing? And like copy and pasting their LinkedIn and thinking they're good.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, that's true. That is our program. And you nailed it all. The hardest part for everybody, John, when they start, every single person, is the skill set. You know, if you've got 30, 40 years behind you, and I'll be clear, we work with people of all age groups. And I'm just going to take a moment and speak to the baby boomers out there who are maybe listening to this, that this is your moment to shine in freelancing. Clients love that we have our 30 or 40 year background. They love that we understand deadlines. They love that we understand soft communication. They love that we just get the job done and we do it happily. So this is an unprecedented time for us, all of us with our gray hair. Unprecedented that for the first time ever, people in our age group, even if you still got a job, but you're worried, like I would go to work sometimes worried, like, you know, I'm not getting any younger, you know, we're going in a different direction. This is a moment where we have options other than being a Walmart greeter. Like and I know that sounds funny, but we all remember that was the option. Well, it's okay, I'll go work at Walmart. We have a newfound freedom for all of us to do new things that we never ever could do before. So I just wanted to point that out. But the biggest thing to that.
So statistically speaking, if you're looking at all of the people who do freelancing, and a big chunk of baby boomers are a part of that and growing,
a third of us,
and they if you look at the stats, they make the most money online. So they may not be the largest demographic, but it's growing, that is freelancing online, but they're the ones who command the most money.
Yeah, a third of baby
boomers. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, James, I think I may have mentioned when we talked the other day that I'm in this thing called AI Academy that's specifically about learning how to use AI to help other people solve problems, right? So their program is I think they refer to it as an AI enablement specialist, right? So I'm not going to come in and do an AI job for you. I'm going to come in and show you how to use AI in your specific business to solve your specific problems.
Mhm.
And the thing that interested me from the very beginning is they were saying, those of you with more life experience are in the catbird seat, because the weakness in AI today is you ask AI to do something. So let's say, for example, write a blog article about duffels and dogs, right? You give it that command and it spits out a blog article, right? And
Mhm.
anyone with significant life experience will read that. And most of us will go, this is terrible. Is it a blog article? Yeah, but it's not written very well.
Yeah.
And the art of it is to be able to take that and then turn it into something that's actually a quality product. So AI is great for saving time on things, but at the end of the day, it's the human touch, the life experience to say, I understand the context that this AI doesn't. And the way it's written, you can tell immediately that it's written by AI because it's missing. You mentioned I'll do the color, right? Adding the color.
Color,
That's
soul,
using,
Humanity.
yes, that's what's
humanity.
missing. So it makes perfect sense to me that it's the more experienced people that are doing better financially because of all that life experience and the context that you bring.
Yeah.
To make it a richer experience for whatever it is. I mean, if you're an engineer, an accountant, a writer, it all matters.
Right.
Um,
And we know how to communicate, right? We know how to, clarify, ask clarifying questions in the beginning to make sure we can do the job. We're quiet about it. We do it with a smile on our face. There's just a way that we've been trained and educated about what it means to do a job, and we do it well, and people notice.
Right, and they're
So-
not, and you can build and so freelancing is, it's projects and jobs and, overtime, and all that stuff. But, and what Jeannie has found out and what we train on people too is over time too, you're building up a clientele, right? So you might have 4 or 5,
Yes.
you get to the point where you have 4 or 5 companies that are continually having you do more
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I was
Right?
going to bring that up.
Right, and
Yeah.
then one will fall off and you got to keep the engine going, but it's not like every day I've got to fill up my pipeline. It's like you get a base set of like companies that you're working for, and pretty soon you're just building that revenue stream up and you're charging more and more.
I think that's a really important point, because even though I wasn't doing it as my full-time thing, I found that to be true relatively quickly. That, one client, for example, they hired me and I would do like a blog article every week, right? It wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't a lot of business, but it was every week from the same client. So I didn't have to do a new proposal every time. I
Yep.
just knew I have, just like if you were at a regular job, that now is like a regular task that I'm doing every week for that person. And
Right.
to your point, had I been doing that full time with focus, that would have built over time. And here's a beautiful thing that I think with freelancing kind of breaks this whole paradigm of the way people think about security, right?
Mhm.
If your job closes down or lets you go, you just lost 100% of your job. But with
Yeah.
freelancing, if you've got 20
Exactly.
clients that are just a chunk of your business, and one of them, something happens and they're not a client anymore, I'm not happy I lost a client, but I didn't lose all of my income all at one time. And
Right.
it's something that
That's-
I think is a huge benefit of freelancing that people don't think about much because they're used to this job mentality. I get
Yeah.
that one paycheck from that one company. And I think that's why there's all this extra stress, and there's
Yes.
so much mental junk that
Yes.
we have if we came up in that world of working for a company. One other thing I wanted to ask, and we're getting close to the top of the hour, I want to respect your time, but really important question that I'm really interested to hear how you guys handle this. What do you say to someone that says, hey, this sounds really good to me, this freelancing thing? I've never done it before, but sounds like you guys program will help me figure out how to do it. But what would I freelance?
Yeah.
What's the thing that
Yeah.
I would do as
Yeah.
a freelancer?
I'll
How
take-
do you help them answer that question?
Yeah, because that is a big piece of what we do. And I think that's very important. Great question.
Yeah, no, that's the number one issue everybody's got, which is, I think I started speaking about a little earlier, which is I've been working for 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And, I'm working with people now that, teachers and just doing all kinds of stuff, but they don't know how to corral what they do. So there is the industry that you work in, but there's all the skills that you're in, that are enabled, that allow you to do your job in that industry. So my job with working with people is to go from industry specific to the job you have, to the skill set. And I have a whole assignment at the very first, it's analog, it's printed out and writing on it, where we look at your skills and your talents and your passions, and until it is just exhaustive. And we have you talk to family and friends, anything you can. And we start, then we have you, of course, I have you, cross out what you don't want to do. So the nexus, the Venn diagram is, what do you do really well? That's easy for you to do. That's in market demand for what's online, which is what I know. And that you can charge for. And there's this whole Venn diagram that comes together, which is, then let's put our attention for this profile that you talked about, that I'm going to write for you. Let's put our attention on that top 1, 2, or 3 things. So for example, I'm kind of example driven and visual driven. I have a client, and her background is in HR and recruiting, and she has what she liked about it and didn't, but that's a really good symbiotic relationship. So we did a whole profile for her just on being an HR consultant and a recruiting specialist. That was her profile. And then I also gave her 2 specialty profiles, which was around specifically around LinkedIn profiles, because she's really good at that and did that for people, and job interviewing. So she's got a profile and she's got specialties, but they all work together. And that's where she can start easily. It's in demand. And we wrote it in a way that people are clear what she can offer. So that is the number one place that I start with people, which is your skill set and a skill set assessment, because people get crazy with that. And then what I tell people is, whatever you start with does not have to be what you continue with. You're not locked in. You can change your profile anytime you want. But to get up on the platform, let's pick what's easy and what you like.
Yeah,
and
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people just.
So I'm curious. Let's take somebody like me, for example, right? I work for myself. I do training for mostly finance and accounting folks, typically through associations, right? So I'm a one-man show, right? I have to find it, hunt it, kill it, eat it, the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
Are there gigs on these platforms that pay as well as if I were to like call on some big company outside of that platform for the type of thing that I do? Or does it kind of depend?
It depends. It does depend, but it's very funny. We will talk to people and they're making around $100,000 a year. But they want to cut back their hours, and now they only want to work, what, 25 hours?
20, 25 hours a week.
And
right?
don't understand why they're not going to make $100,000 a year. It's a serious conversation to have with somebody. Like, well, if you're making 100,000, working, 40, 50 hours a week, which is most of us, right? But you're going to cut it back in half. But you still want to make 100,000. Like, people, it's really interesting to get where included.
The psychology.
Don't put the numbers together.
I'm thinking people who are freelancing for us, right, are people who are doing 2 things at once. And that is, going from, high income, high debt, high everything life, fast paced, and want to live in Costa Rica or Portugal or wherever they want to live, right, and cut way down. And, they don't need to make that kind of money anymore, right? So not that you can't.
There are people
who make 6 figures on freelancing.
You just got to be willing. Like, it's not like you said earlier, John, it was perfect. Nobody's giving you a paycheck to say, do this for me and I'm giving you $100,000. So you got to be realistic. Like, can I drive myself to earn $100,000? And there are absolutely people online who will drive themselves and earn $100,000 with no problem.
But they're still working 50, 60 hours a week like they did before.
So when we talk to people about the reality,
there's no free lunch.
People kind of get it. It's like, at the end of the day, if I could make, I'm making it up, if I can make 30 grand a year, or some people are on Social Security, I can't make more than 20,000 a year, whatever it is. It's doable, but one of the questions is to get realistic with people about, and
What
there's
kind of
also
effort are you going to put in?
what
Yeah.
effort are you going to put in? And then there's the last thing is there's people in transition. Like I'm talking to a woman now and she wants to come and move in 2 years, but she's got a full-time job. So she wants to start learning now so she can build up her skill to freelance. So by the time the 2 years comes, she's already got clientele on her laptop and she goes. So that's a really great way to do it. You don't have to wait to be done to learn to freelance. You can learn to freelance while you're kind of doing it.
I'm just thinking one of the things that's going through my head is some of the professions that are so underpaid. Teachers is a good example,
Yes, it's a big
right?
one. Yep.
That have, I don't know how many different skills that they could monetize some other way through freelancing, but would probably never think about it. It's just not something that's on their radar, right? I mean, I don't know how someone would come across it if they're just not in certain worlds of just continuous learning or watching podcasts like this, or, it's something a lot of people just don't even know exists out there.
I'm talking to a woman now who was a school principal. We met her from IL from Costa Rica. And she was so funny. She's like, she's moving to Costa Rica. She's already decided she wants to freelance. And what she understands, and she tells people, and she tells all of her teachers this, everybody, they are the best salespeople on the planet. She goes, school teachers, principals, all of us, we are selling things every day that nobody wants. Nobody wants to come to school.
Yeah.
Parents don't want to be part of the PTA. They don't want to do the pizza party. They don't want to. She goes, all we do all day long is figure out how to keep people engaged with what we provide them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
You're
101.
You're reminding me of, I saw an interview with this guy who's a former CIA officer, like literally like a CIA spy.
Wow.
And he teaches a lot of sales teams. And he starts out with, look, I was literally selling people treason, right? Literally selling them on basically committing treason against their country, right? That's what I used to do for a living. Trust me, I can teach your people how to sell whatever this widget is that you're trying to get them to sell, right?
That's it.
It's
We
a
get
very
those
transferable skill set.
But those of us with a sales background can get a little full of ourselves about how difficult it is to sell. I mean, I'm honest, we're both from that background, and you meet people that do other things, you're like, oh yeah. Like, I don't know that I could sell to 25 school age children why they should come back tomorrow and actually learn.
There's a lot of professions, like in school teaching is one of them, that more than likely they could absolutely make more money freelancing than they did in their career.
And they got free time. Yeah,
And
writing, content writing, process design.
That's
training.
sad, but true.
Yeah.
So we're right about the hour mark, and I want to make sure we don't go too much over here. But what would be, and I will tell you, I'm asking this question selfishly for myself, but I think everybody out there that's listening should be asking the same question. If somebody wants to get started, what's the first step with you guys?
You mean to work to have a conversation. I offer, what I tell people is it's fun, it's informal, and it's informative. And we basically find out.
And it's not a sales pitch.
Yeah. See, here's the thing for everybody who's listening. If you're a student looking for a teacher, then we make a lot of sense for you. There's nothing to convince somebody of to freelance. So usually when people reach out to us, it's because they're already interested. So we don't have to sell anything.
Or intrigued.
Or
like,
intrigued.
oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do this.
Right. So the first thing is a simple conversation.
Okay. Look for an email from me today, because I want to have that conversation, because you're making me remember back when I was doing freelancing and thinking I could probably make more with this if I took it more seriously and was more focused on it, because it wasn't my main thing.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I guess I never thought to go on one of those platforms to look for gigs doing what I do now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like anybody out there, and I'm sure it varies. It like a lot of things. It depends, right? It depends. But I would encourage anybody out there, if you work for yourself, they should be giving you guys a call, because at the very least, worst case scenario would be you have a conversation and let them know in your specific situation, maybe this isn't the best fit. Well, so what? So you had a conversation. You guys are, interesting, fun people. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound
Worst-case
like a
scenario.
bad. Yeah.
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 I'll just say to all of you out there, I've had a easier time talking to people that come with multiple skills, like working as in lawyer offices, and they were caregivers, and they've done medical coding, like they've done three completely desperate, whatever that word is, things.
Disparate,
I write
yeah.
for- I write
Disparate.
for- Thank you. I write for a living.
Disparate.
Versus
We have
necessarily
thesauruses.
old- that are older and they come with 40 years. So it just really doesn't matter. The story is, what do you care about? What do you want to produce for yourself? How much do you want to make? And, is this going to look fun for you? Do you have, and part of my presentation also includes attributes and characteristics that are important for a freelancer. So you actually have an opportunity to go, am I resilient? Am I a resilient person? Like, can I do that? Am I good at meeting deadlines? Can I manage my time? Like, there's a list of things. And some people really do
Yeah.
look, I'm not so good at managing my time. But then what opens up is that's another reason why you have a coach, because it's accountability. And people do fine if they have somebody to hold them accountable to things like going to the gym versus.
So do
Thank-
you do ongoing programs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not like a one and done. We're going to teach you this curriculum and then go get them.
Yeah,
have an
it can
ongoing.
be that.
It can be.
It can be
Okay.
that, but some people want to stick around and go, hey, can I just keep you on board for 6 months? I can call you in time. But here, everybody,
Right.
here's the thing, and don't get mad. I don't really go anywhere anyway. I become friends with people. Like, we're all up to the same thing. So I have a woman in Barcelona.
There she
who's
goes,
not a
giving
client,
away time again.
and she WhatsApps me and goes, there's a guy who wants to talk to me. I'm like, oh, well, it's sort of how it works nowadays. And I'm sure, John, you do that with people too. It's like, once you're in their life, you're like,
Yeah.
to work
Well,
together, keep going.
during the pandemic, there were, I don't know if you guys experienced this, but I had a couple of clients that were longtime clients that just said, we're freezing our training budget right now. And I was like, well, I've been doing work with these people for like 7 or 8 years. I did stuff for free for them,
Right.
not tons of stuff, right? I wasn't like working all day, every day, but I put together a program specifically about remote work because that's what everybody was concerned about.
Yeah.
Gave it to them for free. And now I've probably done that same program paid very
Right.
well a bunch of times. So what you're talking about, I think it's just smart business. And I know, James, I know you're over there, you're doing the calculations on how much, she could have been making if she was, doing billable work, but some of it's marketing, some of it's goodwill, call it whatever you want, but
Oh, no,
We want to be
absolutely.
those people that
Yeah.
we've always wanted to become. And we're in the position now where we really want to be of service to people. And that's not all.
We're living this, right? So this isn't something
Yeah.
this isn't academic for us.
We're not in a basement in Minnesota telling you why you should do it.
We're living and doing it and practicing it in practice with it. And,
Yep.
Other people, so we want to, the reason that we started this is we want to help people get here. So it's
Working
not,
for us, why not help?
right. It's not like, oh, that's a good idea. It's like, no, man, the time has come and it can change people's lives.
It can.
Well, let's wrap up here and let's tell people, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to reach out if they want to find out more or just get started?
But probably.
Yeah, the website's the easiest because there's a contact sheet on there. They can get hold of us several different ways. They can subscribe to our,
And we get
our
back to people
email,
right away.
And we get back to people right away. So that's probably the easiest.
And that's J&J onlineinnovations.com. JANDJ online
Okay,
innovation.
and we'll put it in the show notes. So,
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people can just
Yep.
click on it.
That's the easiest way. And then they can contact us from there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I could probably talk to you guys for hours because I think I told you before, I'm a genuinely curious person. I still have like a million questions, but
Yeah.
I'm going to send you guys an email
Okay.
because like I said, worst case scenario is you tell me, we probably couldn't help you. That's the worst case scenario. So I think it makes sense for me to have that conversation. I encourage everybody out there. I mean, you don't know what you might be missing out on.
Yeah.
Right? This is
We don't know what we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that might be, maybe it's just something you do on the side to make a little bit of extra money,
Mhm.
or
M&M.
maybe you're at that point where you're like, you know what? I think I might want to do something different. And maybe this is it. Who knows?
Exactly, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been a great conversation. Appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time.
John.
And
Thank
for
you.
everybody out there watching, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye. Bye,
Thanks, John.
everybody.